So, good morning, colleagues and friends. I'm very happy to welcome you to this session of the PN9. What is the PN9? It's the priority area of the EU strategy for the Danube region that focuses on education policy and labor market policy. And I'm going to be the moderator today, together with my colleague Jürgen Schick. My name is Jörg Mittel. Jürgen is from the Ministry of Education. I'm from the Austrian Social Ministry, that is called Federal Ministry for Labor, Social Affairs, Health Care and Consumer Protection. It actually fits on a business card. It does, so it's very long. So this session today is about challenges, the skills gap, and as this is the 14th forum, we are getting quite skilled at identifying skills gaps. And however, I hope with our experts today we can move forward a bit. So the title of the session is Closing the Skills Gap, Green and Digital Skills for a Competitive Europe. So this is all about what can be changed, but also about what are pressing topics in the Danube region. For instance, the loss of young people. We discussed this yesterday here in this very room, together with the Danube program. The labor shortage, so the labor markets transform faster than our education systems can adapt to. And this ultimately results in a loss of competitiveness all over Europe, and especially in Southeast Europe. So fewer and fewer people in the working age actually work. And this cannot be competitive. This is an uncomfortable situation in the Danube region, but it's an uncomfortable situation we share here in the Danube family. So I would like to take you on a journey today with our excellent speakers. There will be many women, luckily, so the moderators will be men today, Jürgen and I. So Jürgen for the education part, I am here for the labor market policy part. We cover very briefly cooperation in labor market policy, so cooperation of public employment services. We cover also the digitalization in the world of work, and we cover the integration of vulnerable groups such as Roma or others into the labor market, getting people to work. This is our ultimate aim, getting people into work. So with that, I can get Jürgen into work and hand over to him. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jörg. Dear colleagues, dear friends, it's my pleasure also to welcome you on behalf of the Austrian Federal Ministry of Education and on behalf of Priority Area 9. This is, I just want to add, this is not just an Austrian-led priority area. We are doing this together also with the colleagues from Republic of Moldova and Ukraine. But today, the moderation we cover Jörg and myself. Jörg has already outlined the context and the background for this workshop. I would like just to add that these challenges exist, of course, not only in the Danube region, but also in the wider EU context, where the European Union and Europe as a whole, I think, is faced with the challenge of staying competitive while at the same time successfully managing green, digital, and fair transition. And in this overall context and in this new priority actually on competitiveness, also this fundamental need for building the right skills for the future have become a very important topic. So education training is quite high on the political agenda currently. In the Education Council currently there are negotiations for the new strategic framework for educational cooperation 26 to 30. The European Commission has published in March the Union of Skills strategy. Recently the ministers responsible for that, not only from the EU member states, but actually also from all Danube region countries, have adopted the so-called Widening Declaration on attractive and inclusive vocational education and training. And we are expecting a EU27 Council recommendation in the context of the European semester, which would actually combine education and employment policies in view of the challenges faced in terms of competitiveness on EU level. And this is, of course, positive that there is this political interest in our topics. Yesterday, also in the Sarajevo Declaration adopted by the foreign ministers, there was the foreign ministers put relevance on investing in high quality education and training systems. And so I think the political background is there, and we would like to look a little bit more into that. What are the challenges? What are the measures which are really there? Are the lessons learned? Let me just say we will start with two keynote which look into trends and developments, more also from an evidence and research perspective, and continue with the discussion with distinguished speakers on the panel. And of course, there will be opportunities also to ask questions and to enter into a discussion. So I kindly ask you all to think of, if you have questions, to actively participate in our session. So it's my pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker, Marina Tverdostup from the Vienna Institute for it's always a challenge. Vienna Institute for International Economic Studies. I hope this is correct. Marina is an economist at the Institute, and also a country expert for Estonia. And her research covers actually a wide range of issues, labor market issues, including gender inequalities, labor mobility, integration of migrants, and also, of course, skills disparities, with a particular focus on Central and Southeastern Europe. And most importantly for us, Marina is also the lead author of the Danube Region Monitor, which is a quite unique product of our priority area. It's a report and an analysis based on indicators which were jointly developed within the Danube strategy to analyze trends and developments in education systems and labor market systems. So Marina, I'm happy to welcome you. Thank you for joining us in Sarajevo. The floor is yours.
Now it works. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jürgen, for a very nice, very warm introduction. And it is a pleasure for me to be here today. It is an honor. And especially because the topic I will be talking about in the next, hopefully 12 minutes, I would try to keep it short, but very intense, is truly one of my biggest research aspirations, not just in the context of the Danube region, but in the broader EU context over the recent years. And I'm really hoping that I will give you a snapshot. It will be short, but it will be intense. I will try to give you a snapshot where we find ourselves now in the landscape of skills in the Danube region. What are the challenges? What are the successes? Where can we move forward to make it successful, to make it truly adaptive, truly resilient, and truly competitive? But before I start with the talk, I would want to give a very, very trivial statement first, that skills is our everything when we think about innovation, when we think about growth, when we think about the productivity gains, about our competitiveness in the future. And for the Danube region especially, the competitiveness depends a lot on the skills. for many reasons. And the main reason is that the skill shortages are looming large in the region, even more so that compared to the broader EU context. And this is just one of the, this is just one of the very few hard evidences in that respect. The recent CDFOP survey shows that every third employer in the Danube region states complaints about the difficulties to fill the open vacancies. And this is worse than in the EU overall. So the Danube region is doing much worse in terms of the skill gaps and skill shortages. Why? Of course, we have a combination of factors here, and it is very difficult to pinpoint this or that driver because there were very various factors behind, but the underlying trend, the underlying major driver is, of course, about the demographic decline. And this is what Jörg was talking about already yesterday on the panel, that the region was facing decades-long outward migration, persistent outward migration, declining or stagnating fertility trends. So that all, of course, compensates to simply less people in the region, on the one hand. On the other hand, we have a rapidly changing labor markets and rapidly changing skill demands and skill needs, which of course reshapes the skill profile need on labor market, and which of course causes gaps and shortages, which we have to address now. Well, how can we address the skill gaps and the shortages? Of course, we can both work with the people who have currently on the labor market. So we have to look at the skill profile, at the competences of people who are now in the labor market, identify the gaps, identify the weaknesses, and build the strategies against to work against that. And we have to look at the profile and skills of our future generations, right? So the youngsters, those who will be on the labor market in some years or in a decade. And this is my task for today, to give you a very snapshot picture of where we do stand right now in terms of adult skills and adult competences, and where we are in terms of the young population. What are the current gaps and the current difficulties? I would draw my presentation on these two pieces of very recent research, which already Jörg mentioned. So the Danube Region Monitor, which focuses on the adults, and the special thematic chapter, which is a sort of a new product for this Danube Region round, where we look specifically into the classrooms, basically. So we look at the skills of the youngsters, so 15-year-olds, using the PISA data, and we try to not just give the broad descriptive picture, but also identify the drivers. So do a little bit more of a deeper empirical exercise. I would do it very briefly, and I would really encourage you, if you have an interest, to look into the reports. I will have the QR codes at the last slide. But now my task is to give you the general picture. And let us start with adults, and with a very superficial indicator, so tertiary education, which simply tells you the percent of adults aged 30 to 34 with the university diploma, which is, of course, one would argue, and I would agree with that, is a very surface measure, because this is just about diploma, right? And sometimes the university degree and the skills, actual workable skills, could be very different things, because we gain the skills not just through the education, we gain them on the labor market, we gain them through retraining, upskilling, reskilling, right? So this is a long path through our whole experience. But still, this is a very important measure, because it tells us firstly how well the education system is functioning and how well people are integrated into that education system. And the first thing I want to highlight is the green positive trend. It was an overall decrease over our observation period, so 15 years roughly. We saw an increase in the Danube region, and here I plot the EU average, always EU27 average as a benchmark, and the averages for Danube region split across EU member states and EU candidate countries, because they do show very divergent trend, and we did it on purpose to disentangle those and to also visualize the gap within the region. So first, positive trend. But if we look into the recent years, post-COVID, we see the divergent gap again. Oops. Oh, yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what happened. It's technical failure. Let's see. No. I don't know. Okay, perfect. Yes, that's here. So we just go back here. Perfect. And yeah, thanks a lot. So, so where we were zooming into was the last pretty much last 4 or 5 years, because we see that divergent gap again. So the share of, what's the problem again? I don't know if it's the pointer, because it just go back and forth. Yeah, let's see. Keep talking, because but it would be, it's much nicer to look at the graphs, because yeah, let's wait a while. No, but I think it comes back. Okay. Yeah, because I really want to zoom into the pictures. It's all about the data. Yes, and then okay. Okay, I will put the pointer to be on the safe side and just use it whenever I have to click. So this is the, therefore it would be much more informative to look at the actual skills and competences, and that's what we do also in the monitor. But for today's presentation, I picked only one dimension of the skills, and this is of course the ICT skills, because this is our new basic literacy.
If you translate it literally, but never mind. She's head of Department for International Cooperation Offices and Foreign Language Learning at the EUSDR, and responsible for bilateral and regional education cooperation projects implemented on behalf of our ministry, especially with the Western Balkan and Southeastern European countries. I'm also pleased to welcome Franz Rimmelmoser from the Carinthia University of Applied Sciences in Austria. Franz is a European Senior Research Manager with over 25 years of experience in R&D, leadership, innovation management, and a lot of European projects. He's here also because he's the research lead for an Interreg Danube project called TransAct, yeah, which looks at developing innovative vocational training models in additive manufacturing. And last not least, I would like to welcome Jana Rimac. I hope, is it Rimac or Rimac? Rimac, perfect, good. And Jana, sorry, Janja, yeah, sorry, is the project manager for an Interreg Danube project, the WIN project. We already had a colleague from you, and you actually working at the employment office of the Herzegovina canton, yes. Yeah, and you also serve as an employment mediation specialist. So welcome to all of you. Yeah, I think I would like to start with a question to Susanne. Marina was mentioning that according to CEDEFOP, 1 in 3 employers struggles to find workers with the right skills in the Danube region, and she also mentioned that labor markets are so rapidly changing. From your experience, from the experience of the ETF, how can policymakers and stakeholders actually overcome these challenges faced in vocational education and training and human capital development in general, actually in view of these rapidly changing demands, and also in light of sustainability goals, and how can ETF actually help countries and stakeholders in the region?
Thank you for the question. I think let's start with the fundamentals. It is fundamental that the policymakers are breaking down silos between policy areas. So we need, like the Danube River to flow, we need a flow between different policy areas, between different strategies. So meaning policy alignment between education, regional development, economic development, SME development, green transition. If that flow is established, we are good to go. That is important because we need to have a vet system that is relevant to the labor market. We just heard about the figures, the facts on the skills gaps. So that is important to have policy alignment. If we go concrete, of course, vets and providers, institutions, they need to be up to the beat, knowing about the latest labor market intelligence data. Where are the future jobs? Where are the skills needs? And also be, I would say, open for cooperation, innovative ways of cooperating with the employers, public-private partnerships, and so on. That's why I would like to pinpoint the skills ecosystem. That is a fundamental way of bringing that together with the other relevant stakeholders for regional development, for job creation, and so forth. And for having said regional or having said skills ecosystem, that brings me to talk a little bit about vocational excellence and centers of vocational excellence, because it's all connected here. Centers of Vocational Excellence was an initiative from the Commission in 2019, and actually it has brought back again with attention of the Union of Skills from March 25 this year. Centers of Vocational Excellence, it's a concept that is about high quality of skills. It's about alignment of skills provision with industry demand. It's about inclusion. And another important part, which I find really relevant for what we are talking about in the Danube region, is internationalization or cross-border cooperation. So I think it really is relevant also for what we are talking about in the Danube region. And European Training Foundation, it's the EU Agency for Human Capital Development. We are working in the EU neighboring countries, bringing in the EU policies and concepts. So we call ourselves the extended arm of the European Commission. We have key focus on EU enlargement. So Western Balkans and Ukraine are our key priority countries. And we are active here together with the Danube strategy. And we have a network for vocational excellence where we also have partners from the Danube region. And in that network, we are trying to work together, learn together on what works, what doesn't, so that we can, as we say, learn bottom up, inspiring principles, initiatives, and then have policymakers use this knowledge for top-down implementation. That's how we're working, and that's what I would recommend for policymakers. Listen to the ground and then use the best on what is working. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanne. Thank you for mentioning. I think the message was quite clear also about cooperation in various dimensions. Yeah, also in view of excellence and also more attractiveness of vocational education and training. Since we talked about now, and you talked about vocational education and training, I would like to ask my second questions to Elisabeth, because that is actually kind of a strong focus of Austria's educational cooperation with the countries of the region. And so my question to you, can you share maybe some successful practices, lessons learned, models for building vocational green digital skills through these international partnerships you're working on?
So I'm very pleased to be here today. It's also my first time. And thank you, Jürgen, for honoring us as a flagship for regional collaboration. So our mission is indeed fostering education and strengthening relations within the region, but also on the bilateral base with Austria. So perhaps let me first introduce my agency. As you said, there is a sort of a secret what is about this acronym OEAD. Then secondly, let's explain our approach of regional cooperation. How do we work? And thirdly, share a regional good practice project in the vocational education sector. So OEAD, as you said, also the Agency for Education Internationalization, acting on behalf of the Austrian Ministry of Federal Ministry of Education. We are running actually 2 regional offices here in the Western Balkan region. So one in Sarajevo, being responsible for Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and Serbia, and another one in Albania, Tirana, being responsible beside Albania, North Macedonia, and Kosovo. So through these 2 regional offices, we try to cover the whole region. Actually, we are active here, or have been active for over 30 years altogether. You remember, because we were in the same position sort of 25 years ago. You working here in Sarajevo, me working in Albania, collecting our first experience in the world of project with vocational education training. And now we are still there, but 10 years ago, we pulled sort of our resources and decided to not having a national bilateral office, but having only 2 regional offices, which means there was a shift in our attitude and our approach how to work together with the countries. So perhaps to add, beside that, we're also active in with bilateral office in Moldova, Chisinau, and also in Ukraine. And so this shift 10 years ago meant that our also thematic focus was more orientated on having these common priorities on the interface between developments in education on the national, regional, but also in the European level in the light of the EU accession process. And well, what are sort of our success factors for our project is that we have the involvement of all different levels of the education system. So top-down and bottom-up. So we have the ministries, the responding agencies, we have the economic chambers, we have the schools, to the students association, also parents involved, but also the community and big enterprises when it comes to our projects. And we are always there to try to incorporate all the different perspectives from these stakeholders to get a really systemic and sustainable approach. And the best case if later on our projects really feeding in revised wet laws, regulations, for example. So when we start with our project, in the beginning, we have a sort of really broad consultation process, first on the national levels of these countries, then we bring them together on a regional level and to agree on a topic of high priority at the moment. And later on, we work together on regional events, but also then on national and local events, and later on bring them again together on the regional base. So we have this mix and mingle, bring people together. Well, sort of, it's really a challenge with the different languages, depending on where we are in the Western Balkan area. But with the help of our interpreters, we think we are not so lost in language. We always find a way of communicating. What is also important when we work on this country, regional, and mixed cross-country levels, we also bring in Austrian expertise. But that means that we sort of present our models, and it's on the countries then to decide what kind of elements fit to their systems. So it's on the experts in the countries. We work together with the experts directly from the system, but also with freelancers, because there is a lack of resources that they all find time to come together. And so we learned that it's really a good key success to bring different experts also together. Well, then I would like to come to our main focus, strengthening. Yes, one more minute. So the cooperation between schools and business sector. So this is one of our good practice in the field. So the last, we tried to really to enhance the quality of the in-company learning in the enterprises, sort of, by strengthening the role of the so-called vocational practical coordinators placed at the vocational training schools. So we tried to gather to have a process of new standardized procedures, a manual with the tools, how to work with the enterprises, so really that they meet the requirements of the labor market. Because to sort of reduce these skill gaps, it's so important that the school meets the businesses, that they are sort of connected, and that all the conditions are well prepared for the students to go for the practical trainings in the businesses. And for example, this project was so successful that we introduced it to our partner countries, the Republic of Moldova and Ukraine, and they were very enthusiastic and asked us to also restart this project in their country. And now we are implementing actually in these two other countries with experts coming from Bosnia-Herzegovina and from Kosovo, together with local experts in Moldova and Ukraine. This project now called Wet Connect, so connecting schools to businesses. So also this transfer and this learning in the region, we appreciate that very much because it's sort of the added European value. Thank you.
Okay, we're all working here for a wider and deeper Europe. Also, the social ministry, by the way, has offices in these Western Balkan countries, 3 of them. But now, talking about the Western Balkans, we have a question for you, Nathalie. Imagine I'm a Western Balkan country. What should I do first if I lack people, if I lack the labor force? Should I first try to tap the potential within my country, or should I try to get people back or new immigrants that are skilled? What should be the priority? I know, I transformed the question a bit.
That's a very, very important question. And I think you need to tackle all of the elements, not just one. And I'm saying it because, as you know, if you may know, the World Bank, we are writing or preparing these flagship reports on every year. There's a new flagship coming out on a specific topic. And I think the one on 2 years ago in 2023 was about migration. And it really mentioned, highlights that well-managed migration can deliver significant economic and social benefits for both the origin and the destination countries. So what does it mean? So what could be like a number of interventions that could potentially be applicable? So one is migration is definitely seen as a development lever. If you just look at the remittances that are being resent to the countries, it's a significant portion of the GDP. We also have good examples of diaspora engagement in these countries. I met someone from Albania who's set up this nanoalb technology. It's called a nanoalb, and it's focused on nanotechnology, and he set up different institutions catering for the Western Balkans specifically, while at the same time giving back, because that person has been for a while outside of the country. So it's about really giving back to your country of origin. And I think we need to do more in terms of really using that potential to give back. So there's also examples of, in terms of diaspora engagement, is about bringing knowledge, innovation, and capital, which is the example I was mentioning. There's also the possibility to use them to mentor local talent in the countries of origin. So one, that migration should be seen really as a development lever. Secondly, let's look at the skills partnerships. I came across this example in Kosovo, which is a Hymera college. So what they do is they are catering for nurses, they are training nurses. And we know that a lot of nurses are lacking in the Western Balkans because a lot of them have migrated. And actually there was an article yesterday about that, showing the huge gap that is being left behind. So what Hymera College does is that they are training dual certification, I think you mentioned it, dual diplomas. Recognition of diplomas in Kosovo, but also in Western Europe. And they train for the local market, but also they train for the destination country. But it's really well-managed migration process. And so, and you would think that perhaps, do you think that more graduates are actually leaving the country in Kosovo who are graduating from the nursing program, or you think some of them will also stay behind? What do you think? I'm asking the audience. Do you think more are leaving, or some of them are also staying? Leaving? Actually, it's mixed. There's quite a bit leaving, but a lot of them are also staying. I mean, still not too much scale, reaching scale, but at least it's a perfect example that not everyone would be attracted to migrating. But I think at least the recognition of the standards, the qualifications, I think that's an important one for both the destination country and also the country of origin. The third one is, you mentioned internationalization and skilled immigration, and I think that's the reality already in some of the countries. When you look at, in Serbia, there are quite a few South Asians actually in certain types of occupations. And I think also in Banja Luka, the rector of the University of the medical faculty is actually doing very important programs also to attract nationals from South Asia to become nurses in order to resolve the gap that has been left behind. So all this to say is that you need to look at different fronts. You cannot force people not to migrate. I mean, that's a natural thing. But you should, once they migrate, you should also use them as important knowledge to give back to your country in terms of diaspora engagement. But also you need to look at other means in terms of attracting certain nationals to the country of origin. So there are different mechanisms that one has to look at in parallel.
Thanks a lot for exactly talking for 4 minutes.
Okay.
Now we had a lot of information on policy and research, and we are going now in the next step towards the transnational projects. So we have 2 guests here, and I would like to start with the local here, which is Janja. And the question is about the WIN project, an Interact Danube project. It focuses on women in peripheral industrial regions. Please tell us briefly what the project is about, and I would like to know also what you have heard today from the others, how does it resonate with your project? I think that would be interesting.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the question. I was just thinking about this. So as regards to the WIN project, as my colleague already mentioned, we are focusing on closing the gender gap in labor markets. Specifically, we are trying to contribute to more accessible, inclusive, and efficient labor markets for women in peripheral industrial regions, which, as has been pointed out several times today, are traditionally industrial, with sectors that are traditionally male-dominated, and with women taking a more traditional roles, which I believe wasn't highlighted enough, just how much of an impact it has on a woman's career, life path, and in general, their position in the labor market. So what we have heard today, both from the keynote speakers and the panelists, many things aligned with the findings that we have found during the research within the WIN project and also in the field. Because as you have heard, I work as an employment mediation specialist in the employment office of Canton 10 here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And in my role, I have direct contact on a daily basis, both with stakeholders, with policymakers, with employers, and with our target groups, with unemployed people. And many things are just as you said, and I'm really happy that this is recognized. I digress. The WIN project has adopted a transnational approach in 3 steps in order to address these issues, in order to facilitate more inclusive labor markets for women. Firstly, we have sorry. We have analyzed which are the needs of women in each peripheral region, as in all regions as a whole, and in each one separately, and also which are the institutional barriers that prevent them from more active participation in the labor market. Secondly, we have established so-called WIN innovation groups in each peripheral region. These groups consist of experts from stakeholders and target groups, and they all together adopted this bottom-up approach that you have mentioned. So to find out which are the best initiatives that can be implemented, which would serve the needs of women, but also the local society as a whole. And we have come up with 5 to 7, so on each region, with social innovations. So this was considered to be the best possible approach. These social innovations are specifically tailored to these needs in each peripheral region. And they're currently being implemented right now. I mean, most of them are starting next week, and some are already finished. And even though they're still in their implementation phase, we are already seeing really positive feedback and interest. And then thirdly, the WIN project also focuses on policy recommendations, local action plans, which would then be sent higher up, and also all of this combined with awareness-raising campaign, which I must stress has been proven quite efficient. And we have seen, especially in Bosnia and Herzegovina, many projects that have been implemented for years and years and years, and also which offered skills training for various groups, including women. But there was always a problem with the interest of the target groups. They weren't interested. And I was warned when I started this project, you will have a problem with finding women who will want to participate in your activities. But I believe that through our campaign and our roundtables and media campaign, and also we had an employment fair with workshops for women, empowerment workshops for women, we found that women are motivated and interested to participate in this change. Just as an example, we had, so this was 2 weeks ago, last week actually, the workshops which we organized. One was a specific skill training in freelancing, and the other was an empowerment workshop in motivation, how to turn your talent into potential. The workshop, the free slots filled in within 48 hours. So women are exceptionally interested in joining these initiatives. And as regards the skills that you also asked about, as have been mentioned, green skills, business skills, and digital skills, especially in Canton 10, especially business skills, because they are of particular interest to the women in our area. For a long time, we also experienced mass immigration because of just simply a limited job offers, limited training possibilities, and even so, women who have high capacities, who would leave to, for instance, pursue a STEM career, they would not come back, or if they wanted to come back, they wouldn't pursue this kind of career. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you very much, Janja. Well, I can understand you probably would have a lot more to tell. This sounds all very interesting and important what you're doing. Yeah, I would like to pass the floor and the next question to Franz, who is also here mainly actually also to represent the Danube Interact project. I mentioned it before, it's called TransAC. Yeah, and I mentioned it's an academy, or the idea is to develop an academy for additive manufacturing. And I think what is interesting to me about this project, that it actually tackles or tries to tackle skills shortages, brain drain, and also better access for disadvantaged groups. So, but Franz, please tell us more about this and what are the practical impact you're expecting from the project.
Okay, thank you. I am from Carinthia in Austria, which is a rural and very small region in Austria, and we are working together with rural regions all over the Danube area, with 7 countries and 14 partners from Austria to Ukraine. And towards the question Jürgen mentioned, I want to share with you 3 images, 3 pictures we have developed in order that you can understand what we are doing and understand our project. The first picture which we use is when our children grow up, they go to school, they educate themselves, they make their dreams, and then they leave. They leave not because they want to, at least not all of them, but they leave because they have to. They have two less opportunities in rural regions, and they have 2 less jobs in rural regions. And our project shall turn the story. Actually, this is what we are going to work with. The second picture is what we are developing in the project. This is, as Jürgen already mentioned, is a transnational academy of additive manufacturing, where we put, where we put together VET associations, SMEs, universities, and schools in order to form an ecosystem that really allows the development of new skills and new jobs. So we are focusing on additive manufacturing, as already was mentioned, or 3D printing, as it is called. This is now a mature technology and needs, of course, investments. And now we have discussed that with the SMEs, and they only want to make investments when they have already trained workers. And they can train the workers only if they make the investments. So we came up with the conclusion actually that Jörg mentioned before. This is some kind of chicken and egg problem we have to face in that project. And now, what is the solution to that? This is the third picture, which we are working with. Well, at least our solution is that we have to go for both points simultaneously. We built up this training academy on the one hand to educate young people and vulnerable people. And on the other hand, we are working together with SMEs to show them the potential of additive manufacturing as a new technology for new business. And by learning together and growing up business together, both groups benefit from each other. And we hope that this actually will change the story. And we want to come from brain drain to brain gain.
Thank you. I think I have rarely seen an Interact project that covers the problems, the challenges in the Danube region that well to the point. Win, of course, too, but also this one is really, I think it's a very interesting approach. and initiatives. I think because lunch is approaching, we can take some questions from the audience to make this workshop a bit more democratic. Top-down democratic, you know, that's a top-down decision. Are there any questions from the audience? No? Yanni again.
It's working. Okay. I have a question for Elizabeth. Since you mentioned that you are addressing the whole vertical, also from the policy perspective, if I understand correctly, within the WIM project, we did a thorough policy analysis, multi-level policy analysis from the EU, national to regional and local level. So we were interested how the policy in terms of gender equality in the labor markets is aligned through the verticals. And our finding was that the EU and national level address these issues quite timely, if I may say so, because I come from the academic sector and let's say I have some kind of knowledge how the contemporary aspects are settled. But we also found out that this translation of the policy directives from the EU and national level are very poor in the regional and the local communities. So I'm wondering from your experience, what would be the next step to filter down these policy directions, policy recommendations to be more effectively adopted at the regional and especially local level?
So thank you very much for this very specific question. So from our experience in the countries, when we work on the sort of national level, we always try also to implement sort of community of practices, where we have this initiate peer learning processes. For example, when it comes to gender sensitive intervention, we are organizing, for example, girls' days to attract more girls for vocational education training schools, and also to make sort of career guidance. And the most important thing is to actually have the parents on board. But to have all, so multi-level, as you said, from the local, regional level, from my experience, most important is to share success stories, to have role models, testimonials, because they convince the most. And for sure, it depends on the process coming top down from the ministry. If you have a strong ministry who really speeds up and puts pressure and are interested, for example, bringing more girls to vocational education training. We have a success story in Albania in that field, for example, we organized the third year now, the Girls' Day, and nearly 90% of vocational education training schools were engaged, and it was a really large media campaign, and it was very supported down from the Premier Minister Edi Rama, for example. And he was interesting in this. So there you can bring it together. So you need actually all levels being engaged at the same time, and really to use this momentum.
Okay, can I just add a sub-question?
But we can also continue then on a bilateral level if you like.
I would just like to expose that it's crucial what is mandatory and what is voluntary. For instance, in the academic sector, the EU found a solution that if the higher education institution or the research institution wants to compete for funds, it has to adopt the gender equality plan. So that's a mandatory measure which we cannot avoid. So this is the example of a direct translation of the European values and mechanism to the institutions which are in one way or another locally embedded. So I would be interested to hear more stories similar in other sectors, not just the academic ones.
Okay.
Any other questions from the audience? Marina has a question.
Because you mentioned that you analyze the obstacles for the labor market engagement by the integration of women. But do you also look at the care responsibilities as an obstacle and the provision of the childcare cost accessibility aspects? You also look into that? Yeah?
Yes, we looked into everything. We did. Especially in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but in other countries, in other peripheral regions as well, we discovered that there is a need to introduce flexible working arrangements, perhaps adaptable childcare services, for instance, in the afternoon, because they're non-existent, and also, well, basically, empowerment. Empowerment is the key word here, because the women are motivated, they want to work, but they also want to be paid for their work, right? Yes. And so there is a saying in Bosnia and Herzegovina that says, a woman holds 3 corners of the house. So maybe it's time for a man to take another corner and the woman to step out of the house for a little while. Right? Right. Yes. Yes. But I must point out that we have found that the approach differs a little bit in each peripheral region, but the main takeaway is to combine skills training with empowerment. So offer practical learning, to offer networking and financial support. And that is something which we are trying to achieve in Canton 10 through our 3 social innovations. Firstly, a free training in business literacy. Secondly, a support program for craftswomen. And thirdly, in the introduction and promotion of social entrepreneurship. So we believe that together they can prove the foundation for this change to sustainability which we aspire to.
Okay, I think we're already coming to an end. It's 1 p.m. We are probably, most of us are hungry. Just let me say, Franz, you mentioned sometimes, there's a vicious circle, the hen and the egg. But I believe that sometimes with transformation, with a threat, what is perceived as a threat, the solution also comes. And often policy making is about the boring of hard boards, as we know, and we are boring the board. And if we look at green skills, for instance, or let's look at energy jobs, they are more female when they are green, and they are less female in the old oil and jobs. They are more male, and they are also better paid. But there is some hope. That's what I want to convey, and that's my last message before I hand over to Jürgen.
Just allow me also some closing remarks. I think what Jana mentioned, the word empowerment. I think that is a very important word, which actually, we had the topic of empowerment since the very first start of our very first PN9 conference, empowering young people, a big project we had also. Empowerment also, I think, was empowering schools and teachers, was mentioned by Marina. So I think key takeaways, I think somehow we have to start early also to address basic skills also in view of equity in making education systems but also labor markets more inclusive. And to close gaps on various levels. Between countries, between different groups within countries and regions. We mentioned basic skills. Digital skills were addressed. I think the topic of digital literacy is also quite important. What I think was also raised is the question of making lifelong learning a reality, as it's called, because this is definitely an important point. And again, coming to closing, the issue of cooperation on all kinds of forms between policies, between governmental levels, between stakeholders, between the practitioners, between providers, between the economic sector, between countries, between regions. And I think this is something where the Danube Region strategy and our forum can come in and try also to support development, try to support improvement. And I would like to thank you all for joining us here. Thank you all for our speakers. Thank you, Marina, for joining us here in Sarajevo. I would like to say also thank to the Bosnian Herzegovinian EUSDR presidency of this year for making actually this topic a presidency priority topic and for inviting us to organize this panel discussion here. With this, I would like to thank you, Jörg, for.
And thank you, Barbara and Sarah, for planning this and implementing it.
True. So I think we're ready for lunch. Thank you all.